Without further ado, I would like to just get on with this video. Um, I would also like to ask whoever is watching this video on the other side of the screen, do not make light of my words. Do not make light of this message. Um, this is a very serious topic, and what I saw felt way too real. This was too real for me. When I woke up, again, when I woke up from that dream, I was super scared. I prayed, but it took a while for me to get to praying. It took a while for me to get to getting up out of my bed and going and telling my family what I saw, what I experienced in this dream. It just felt way too real. This everything around me was happening fast, back to back. Without further ado, let's get into it. I wrote some notes down regarding the first video that I made regarding this dream. And if you hear paper or just pages, just know that I'm just looking at my notes. I was in Northern Cali with my mother, the Bay Area from what it looked like. I've been to the Bay Area before for graduation and for a wedding that took place in 2023. So I'm a little familiar with how it's laid out and how it looks. Anyway, it was also a sunny day in this dream. It had to be around noon. It had to be around afternoon because everybody was out. Everybody was out. Again, I could see long distance in this dream from a bird's eye view. In this dream, I could see the Pacific Coast West Highway and cars driving to Oregon or the Oregon border, Northern California, Oregon border, and down to Southern California. I could see cars driving down to LA, San Diego. We were headed to a cookout, or we were just walking around looking for something or someone. I looked over the coastal area. Everything was peaceful. Everything felt unreal. Everything was like warm. It was a nice warm breeze coming from the ocean. It was just a nice, beautiful day. And then, boom, out of nowhere, a part of the city we were, a part of the city that we were in broke off into the ocean. I don't know what city because the Bay Area is not just San Francisco. There's Pleasanton, there's Walnut Creek, there's Oakland, there's so many other cities in the Bay Area. There's Berkeley. I don't know what city we were in specifically, but a part of this city broke off into the ocean. I start telling my mom, we've got to go. Let's run. Because we didn't have a vehicle. We were on foot. I'm like, we got to go. Let's run immediately. I'm carrying her. My mother is a plus size woman. So for me to be carrying her is unreal because it had to be a dream because there's no way this is happening in real life. I'm carrying her up this hill and we're climbing down this cliff that's going to give way any moment. I could feel it in my spirit, in my dream. I could feel it in my whole entire being like, oh, if I don't hurry up and get off of this cliff, off of this hill, I'm going to cave into the earth with it. It's going to give way at any minute. So I'm just making haste. I'm making haste. I'm holding my mom and I'm just climbing down it as fast as I can. And as soon as we climbed down and walked away, I want to say like maybe 5 seconds of walking away from this giant cliff hill structure that we just got done climbing down, it gave way. It went straight into the ocean. So at this point, my mom, she fainted. She was knocked out, unconscious. And I'm just like, okay, we ain't got time for that. I got to wake you up. I got to wake you up because we don't have time for you fainting or getting knocked out. You got to wake up immediately because I need you. You need me so that way we can get to safety. That's what my mind was on in the dream. I was just locked into survival mode. I was locked into survival mode. I didn't have time to feel fear. I was afraid, but I didn't have time to dwell on fear. I didn't have time to dwell on my family in Southern California, people who I knew in the Bay Area, if I knew them in the dream. In real life, I don't know anybody up there, but in the dream, I just didn't have time to think about the next person. I was just on survival mode, period, from that point on. We ran until we couldn't run anymore. We started running out of breath, but we were at a great distance from the parts that were breaking off into the ocean. We knew that if we didn't get out of the Bay Area immediately, eventually all of it was going to break off into the ocean. But at this point, we were just catching our breaths and we stopped on the side of an empty parking lot. And there was a white or a silver SRV or Subaru, one of those types of vehicles. It was parked on the edge with a for sale sign on it. And we almost broke into it. I'm like, okay, we got to get into this car. We got to get the car. We got to drive away. We got to head on back to Nevada. We got to get out of here. We got to get out of California, period, is what my mind was on. I was telling my mom that she was in agreement with me. And out of nowhere, the owner showed up. And I was like, oh man, the owner's here. He gonna let us get this car. And he showed up with the keys and just let us have the keys to the car. Because he had his own car and he had everything that he needed along with the people who were in his vehicle. So he was like, okay, yeah, I see that this is disaster happening. Nobody's coming to the aid of the people in the city either. There was uh, no FEMA, no emergency relief coming to save these people. And he saw that. He felt bad for us because we did not have a vehicle. We were on foot. It was like, you guys want the car that bad? You guys can go on ahead and have it. Here's the keys. So boom, bada bing, we're in the car. He drives off. We're driving away, or we're in the car, and we start driving up the hills, more inland, more east, more inland. And what we were once walking on, like the parking lot, the road that we were once walking on, everything, all of that gone, submerged underwater, broke off into the ocean. It was breaking off in rapid pace. Everything around us was just chaotic. There was just fires breaking out, people screaming, people running from here to there. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what was going on. People were just in panic mode. People were afraid. People were scared. As we made it onto the highway, because at this point we're just heading to the highway, we planned on going south. But Southern California, again, bird's eye view. As soon as I turned my head to look beyond the highway to look at Southern California, all of it, San Diego, California, like San Diego, in between San Diego, Anaheim was no longer there. Burbank was no longer there. Los Angeles and all the other towns and areas in between, Inland Empire, Ventura, all that gone, completely gone. It was all ocean at that point. It was all submerged by water. So reality hit me. Everyone and everything I've ever known in Southern California is gone. There's nothing there or left. We've really got to go and get the heck up out of here. That was the only thing on my mind. I didn't even have time to grieve the people who I knew down there. I didn't have time to grieve my relatives or people who I just knew were still in Southern California, because it was just gone. Reality hit me, and I'm just, okay, survival mode. We got to get to safety. Now, I don't know why this part of my dream took place, but we ended up driving to other people's homes, and we were picking up children. I want to say middle school to smaller age children, and we put them in the back of the vehicle. I was like, okay, mom, we got to go. We got to head to Las Vegas. We got to go. She was in agreement with me. Then all of a sudden, she starts to become delusional. She's like, okay, Southern California is not really destroyed. LA's still there. We got to go to LA. We got to go to LA. I got to get we got to go to LA. We got to go to LA. I got to get my child, my son. I got to get my son, which is one of the 4 siblings that I have down there. I told her this is crazy. This is crazy. We saw for ourselves. Southern California is no longer there. It's submerged underwater. There's nothing to go back to. I was scared out of my wits because I'm like, okay, water is coming in rapidly. We don't have time to play with life and death. This is very serious. And she was delusional. She tries to drive down to Southern California. I detour the car immediately. I take control of the wheel. I'm like, we're staying on the path going east. We're getting the heck up out of here. We need to get away from the coast and out of California ASAP. We don't have time to go down there. We have to save ourselves, is what I told her. I yelled at her. We need to go now. I accepted the fact that our relatives, including my siblings in Southern California, were dead, gone, dead. She cried hysterically. She was crying, and it broke my heart. It did. But I was in survival mode. Once I was in survival mode, I wasn't letting down for nothing. So she changed the direction to go east. We found ourselves at a crossroad. We tried to find shortcuts to go back to Las Vegas, but everything in every single highway or freeway was crowded and overwhelmed with vehicles back to back. It was crazy. Nobody cared about speed limit. Nobody cared about the law. Everybody was on survival mode. People were driving northeast, north, or just straight up east in rapid numbers, back to back at high amounts of speed. People were driving as fast as their speed limits to their vehicles would allow them. People were driving at high speed. Nobody gave a damn, excuse my language, about the law. Nobody cared about speed limits. People were just headed in whatever direction the highway would lead them to at high speed. People were on survival mode. It was chaotic, and people were driving so fast they were driving on top of vehicles. If vehicles stopped running, people didn't care. They drove their cars on top of the vehicles just so they can continue going down the highway. That's how serious this was. Everybody just wanted to make it to safety, and then all of a sudden, half of California, from the northern tip of the borderline of Oregon all the way down to the southern tip near the borderline of Mexico, broke off completely into the ocean. The other half that did not break off was quickly submerged by rapid bodies of water. But I saw a large wave. It had to be 300 feet tall or higher, and it was being held back by the hand of Yahweh himself. And it was in the central California area where we were. We were in central California when this took place. Yahweh's hand held the water back. I could feel it in my soul. He told me he was giving those of us in that area time to get it together and flee. Fires broke out everywhere. Some people just accepted the fact that this was the end for them, especially the elderly people. They had just about enough. They had been through enough. They're like, okay, this is it. This is it for us. We're going to die. We're good. We're at peace with it. Let it just be. So they went back into their houses and they just allowed themselves to be submerged in the water. So now we stopped, not because we wanted to stop driving, but because the road that we were on abruptly stopped out of nowhere. There was like nothing for us to continue driving on except a bridge, but the bridge was not stable. It was rickety. I grew very fearful. I was like, oh man, I didn't want to panic, but I was beginning to panic because I'm like, how are we getting out of here? And beneath the bridge, or where the bridge was supposed to be, was another highway, but there was no way for us to get down there. And that highway, slowly but surely, water began to fill up down in that little highway beneath us. Some of the cars were being swept away by water. I'm like, okay, we got to get up out of here. Something's got to give. The car behind us was honking at us. The guy got out of the car. He was yelling at us like, hurry up, move, hurry up, move. We got to get to safety. We got to get to safety. The kids got out of the back of the car and they proceeded to help us push the car forward to the edge of the cliff. I began to walk ahead and try my hardest to fix the bridge. A truck drove in front of us abruptly out of nowhere and crossed the bridge. Okay, I'm like, okay, we have a chance to make it. We have a chance to get to Las Vegas. Let's do this. We began to push the car slowly. You know how when you have a car and it stops running, it stops running and you have to push it in order to get it out of the way of traffic, so that way other people can continue driving. That's how we were doing it. We were just pushing the car forward at this point. And God still had his hand held over that one last wave that was going to swallow up the rest of that state. I knew that if we made it, I didn't know if we made it or not. I did not know if we made it over the bridge or not. At this point, my dream began to slow down, and I could hear Yahweh's voice ringing down from heaven, and his voice was very loud. And he told me to tell whoever is watching this video on the other side of the screen, told me, white throne judgment. His white throne judgment was coming really soon. Then I woke up from this dream. I was scared. I prayed. I told my family, and by family, I mean my immediate family, my mother and my siblings who live with me in Nevada. And so now we're just anticipating. We know that this is going to happen in California. I've already accepted it in my heart. I know that the city of San Francisco is going to be destroyed. This ain't no dream. This isn't just something to tell people to cause mass hysteria or fear. I believe that San Francisco is going to be destroyed. I believe that Southern California is going to be destroyed as well, and that half of that state will break off into the ocean, and everything else eastward from there is going to be submerged underwater. I'm just anticipating it. That is the message I wanted to delay or give to whoever's on the opposite side of the screen. Do not be fearful. Please pray for your loved ones in California. If you know somebody in California, a loved one, a friend, whoever, whatever, pray for them. Talk to them. Convince them to leave. Convince them to evacuate immediately. Do not play with God. Do not play with his judgment. Goodbye.